company's going to grow with or without me at this point, but I'm the one hitting the gas. You want somebody that's connected. You got all the systems. You got the call center. You got the marketing. You just need boots on the ground, somebody that represents you well there. Hire people that are way smarter than you. Hire people that you can't keep up with. Hire people that have been where you want to go. So you got to start out with the question is, why would they work for you? Why would they come to your company? If they're that great, what's in it for them? You got to ask yourself that question all the time, because it's not me, it's my team.
Because like when we first hung out, I came out and did a office tour with you like 4 years ago or something like that. And,
yeah, I remember that.
And you were like, you didn't have anything. I knew you were crazy. I knew you were pretty successful at that point, but you were like, I don't have a house, I don't have a car. You're like, I thought you were like borderline homeless at that point, but now you got cool houses. You're going for cool houses.
Well, actually, I have a really nice house. My dad's living in it right now. I've had it since 2012. I just chose to live in the apartments, which
gotcha.
I had a lot of people, like Tom Howard used to come. He's like, dude, why do you live here? I'm like, hey, I get to be close to my technician. It's close to work, and I don't give two shits. More money, more problems. When you have nice houses. By the way, the house is it's a fun token. It's a place to have experiences, bring family, and that's what it's about. It's not for me. Look at me, this beautiful house. It's I don't have a rule that no employees can come to my house. Like my coworkers, like they all come. I don't really care. They're like, man, this is crazy, dude. You must make a lot of money. I'm like, you're damn right. 2 decades. We make a lot of money. We do.
Yeah.
Would you rather work for somebody that's broke?
So,
but I'm proud of everything that we've done, and the future looks great. But I've never had this feeling to impress people by possessions, because I really feel like the more I've bought over the last few years, the more there's more problems. I mean, toilets go bad, roofs leak. I mean, I got a beautiful house, and the roof has some type of drain issue right now. It's getting fixed, but it's always something,
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot's changed since our first time chatting. The business has grown a lot. I don't know what you're at, like 20. Was that 2020, something like that? What were you guys at in 2020?
Oh boy, 2022 we were at $27.5 million of profit. I'm guessing we were probably, believe it or not, we were probably at $7 million. We're growing like a weed. COVID, and I say this with all due respect. I know a lot of people didn't enjoy going through that process of COVID, but we made out like bandits. It was the best thing ever to happen to home service and home improvement, in my opinion. Everybody was stuck home, and they wanted to enhance their home. So it was good for us, and we were deemed essential. It was a little nerve-wracking in the beginning, and then the PPP money came, and I put it all into marketing. So
good. Yeah, same. And by the way, you guys have a great service. We just had some people, your Minneapolis branch, out to fix our garage, and super good experience. Nice guys.
I appreciate that. I saw the picture. That's amazing. You didn't even call me. And I don't really have a vast rule, but a lot of people, to your credit, a lot of people, and I don't really care. I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I own the business. If people want friends and family, but you didn't even call me, so that was pretty cool.
Oh, of course. No, I'm a big. Well, we don't let people get cheap deals on marketing. So I'm not going to expect when I get a home service thing, I'm not trying to get the deal. Especially when I work with my clients, I'm like, I don't want them to ask me for deals. So we have to get our water heater fixed here in a second. I'm not going to ask for anything off with the client. We're going to tell you a little bit about this prioritization between growth and profitability. They sometimes feel like they're conflicting.
They are.
To me,
100% they conflict.
So how do we deal with that? And at what points have you had points in your business where you were prioritizing growth even though the profit wasn't right? And then at what point did you start to push in the other direction, I guess?
So I kind of look at it like working out. Either you're putting on muscle or you're trying to get cut. Putting on muscle is equivalent to revenue. Getting cut is equivalent to profit. My whole tenure as an entrepreneur in the garage door industry was about growth, 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 growth. I always told myself, if I get the revenue, I can turn on the profit. And I was right in a lot of ways. But now I got a pretty good rule. If you're not at least at 10% of the bottom line, focus on profit. If you're over 10%, you can focus on growth. But we grew 50% this year and still maintain a 25% profit margin. We hit this certain size that we've got economies of scale. I mean, our call center reps we get enough calls that they could book more calls just because we get more calls. So if your CSR is making $20 booking 20 calls, mine might be making 25 booking 60 calls. So they're doing 3 times the work because we got 3 times the capacity for them because the phones are ringing off the hook. We're in 40 markets. The way we buy, I mean, I kind of feel like an asshole, but we've negotiated on top of negotiated on top of negotiated. I mean, it's like I went hard in the paint this year, and I don't think I know there's other competitors that are probably going to listen to this, but I know they're never going to come close to what we pay. There's just we buy 25,000 doors a year. We run 20,000 jobs a month. So we've got there's people are like, man, that's such a huge amount of profit, and I'm like, well, we run the same playbook. We don't do roofing. We don't do gutters. We don't do flooring. We don't do HVAC. We don't do plumbing. We're good at garage doors. That's by design. Eventually, we'll do other services, but there's an old saying: revenue is for Revenue is for vanity, and profit is for sanity.
Yeah.
Well, I used to go in a room and beat my chest and say, "Oh, look what we did in revenue." And here's what I figured out: losers talk about revenue. Smart entrepreneurs talk about profit.
Yeah, that's good. It hurts a little.
I mean, listen, I tell it like it is, dude. I don't really care. People are offended. Be offended all you want. I don't really care. Come find me. We'll chat about it. I'm not here to make you feel good. I don't really care about your feelings.
Yeah, don't go find them now. I've noticed you've gotten a little fitter. I saw you at a conference recently. You have an imposing thing you didn't have before. The arms, man. The arms.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
You're talking about the revenue being like putting on mass and profit being like taking a cut.
You do need both. And here was the catalyst, the pivotal moment in my journey here as an entrepreneur is getting the right CFO. Understanding accounts receivable, making sure. One of the things now that we're involved with private equity is they're very good at forcing us to test things before we launch and just go into every market with something. So they're like, sure, you want to hire a trainer for every market? Hire 2 markets. We'll see if it's working, and then we can scale it, nail it, and scale it. Which I'm the type of guy, like I always say, look, the company's going to grow with or without me at this point, but I'm the one hitting the gas. I'm the one that's like really pushing us to grow faster.
Yeah.
And, the question is, do you try to make more profit? Because look, if you can find 5 points to the bottom line, you don't even have to grow revenue. But at a certain point, you got to grow revenue and you got to grow profitability. I mean, you need them both. They say that a healthy company will do 15%. That's healthy. Yeah, but the smart CFO, I mean, you're setting a budget, you're sticking to it. And I used to hate the budgeting process, but we're pretty much we beat our budget, but not by crazy numbers. But yeah, the CFO, the FP&A, financial planning and analysis, we've got 3 people that do that. I mean,
zoom in with me for a second.
Predictable.
I know you have so many people that are picking your brain that are like, let's say going from like 3 to 15 million or something. And I will say that is our primary audience. So zoom in with me for a second. I used to have this mindset around like the Amazon thing, because the Amazon thing was like, we don't care if we have profit for 20 years. We're just going to get big and like decrease taxable liability. And like the pride on me, I was like, that's what I'm doing. I'm doing the Amazon thing where I'm growing and I'm not worried about profit. And I have enough personal income? Because that's confusing to me sometimes because I don't really need anything else. I feel taken care of. I'd happily take another whatever, but I don't need anything. And I think I'm probably not alone. I was talking to my dad recently and he was saying that. He's like, I don't need any more. But I'm like, percentage wise, he is a $20 million company. It's sound and lighting. And I'm like, but percentage wise, your profit isn't, it's like, it's not healthy, but they're so used to just pushing everything back in. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's a big mistake, by the way. That's a big mistake, Tim. People say, number one, you need to be on accrual accounting. If you ever want to get a loan, sell your business. If you ever want to play the big boy leagues, get audited financials, you got to be on accrual. With cash accounting, people say, I'm going to go. And by the way, I'm a big fan of prepaying for marketing. And, a lot of people, the biggest mistake that a bookkeeper and sometimes a CPA says is, hey, you got to go spend a lot of money to reduce your taxes, but then they don't have cash to grow. So they spend all their money at the end of the year. They're going through January, February, broke. And look, none of us like to pay taxes, but reinvesting in the company primarily, I think the best bet is marketing and recruiting. Those are the two things, and continue. Hopefully, your company's based around training, and it's just you don't say I'm training, that your company's built on training. But I understand what you're saying. I didn't know I could do both, grow revenue and grow profit.
Yeah.
And I keep telling my CFO and our partners, our sponsors, that, look, I'm willing to take a 7% haircut for faster revenue growth. But I know we could go right back to this number. And the way that they do the accounting is, look, you go buy a company, let's say you buy $1 million EBITDA, you pay 6x, you paid $6 million. Now let's say we put 35% into get to $6 million. Let's just do $5 million for the sake of numbers. You're looking at a little over $1 million you'd spend in marketing versus the $6 million you took a loan out for. So greenfield is actually a better strategy if you can figure it out. But yeah, I understand what you're saying, but here's a good book for you. It's called Built to Sell by John Warrillow. And you want to have 3 years of good financials that show that you're a good business owner and the company's healthy. I would never, ever, ever own a business for more than 5 years going forward. And I've invested in a lot of businesses. If you get into business with me, we're selling within 5 years or less.
Tell me why. Okay, so I don't think so. I'm probably like my plan is like a 10-year plan, and then I'm gonna talk a little bit through like my parent. This is my other frame of reference. My brother and my dad have a company together. They're 20 million. They never want to sell. So I want to sell in 10 years. They want to never sell. Why?
Well, once you learn how to buy and sell companies, there's this thing called arbitrage. And the real money comes from when you sell and you can roll equity. Mm-hmm. So it's not like, what am I going to do? You just sign a non-compete for the same area you're in. You sign a non-compete for 3 to 5 years. It doesn't mean you can't do other stuff. When you get this pot of gold, opportunities will find you. It's not like, well, my life's going to be over. What am I going to do? I don't want to sit on a beach or go golfing every bullshit. Entrepreneurs, we find stuff. It's not like your life's over. It's just you live a more fruitful life. I mean, so your kids are going to be, we fly first class. Dude, I want to own the plane. I'm not going to lie. Like, look, end of the day.
I'm almost a little surprised you don't have a plane already, to be honest.
Yeah, well, for me, it wasn't financially. I will say this. I have a lot of delayed gratification. And for the money I got, there's a 3 F's. Anything that flies, floats, and you can guess the third one.
They're expensive.
So those are vastly depreciating. If Trump, so right now I believe we got 40% we're going into depreciation. You can depreciate anything over like 6,500 pounds. But I think Trump's probably going to bring back, you can depreciate 100% of it. The day that happens, most likely, I'll do a plane. And I need to have something in 2026 to lower my taxable income.
I like where you're thinking. Do you do those little jets that like you can kind of like, it's kind of private, but it's like.
Yeah, I do.
How is that?
I don't do it a lot. So here's the only way I do that is if there's, like, we're building a house in Sandpoint, Idaho, Ponderay Lake.
Yeah.
and that has a airport. Otherwise, I gotta fly into Washington.
Mm.
So I can fly right there, 2.5 hours, and I'm 10 minutes from the house versus 2 hours from the house. So if it's convenient, I'll fly. But I'm flying to Milwaukee today. We fly first class.
Yeah.
I go about 50 minutes before. I haven't missed an airplane in quite a few years.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
missed a lot of
I like
planes in
to
my.
cut it right at the very end, like to just be like
I
walking
like
on
to
the
just
plane.
walk right in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I got this. I got this new status that's pretty cool. It's called concierge key,
Really?
and I get to load the plane before anybody. And the guy calls me up and makes sure I'm running. They'll. I don't know if they necessarily will hold the plane, but I think they will for about 10 minutes.
Is this
And
Delta or what is this on?
no, this is United.
Okay, nice.
I like Delta better. There's just not a hub in Phoenix.
Yeah. Okay, let's bring it back to the profit revenue thing. Let's try to. This might be basics for you, but for that guy trying to go to, let's say, 5 to 15 million, and they've got profit issues. What are the first levers that you're pushing on to kind of help them switch from this revenue focus to profit focus while still growing? Because you can do both.
Well, one of the biggest
Like,
things I look
I
at.
will say this podcast is for HVAC and plumbing, but if you have more general stuff, that's great too.
Yeah, so look, I think the biggest thing I see in home service is the contact center. And that just doesn't mean the call center. It means every deal from Angie and every lead aggregator and online when you're on your website, if there's a chat bot, if there's a schedule engine or whatnot. I see a lot of people missing opportunities. They're not booking enough calls. Their booking rate's not where it needs to be. The next one is conversion rate. The next one is average ticket. And there's a lot to be said about the price book. You were at Lance's event. I told him years ago, raise your price by 10%. You won't lose a client. He did it. He didn't lose a client. I remember that day vividly. The thing about Lance is he's an implementer. He did it quickly. People are so afraid to charge the right prices. I was involved with a Christmas light business, and I looked at the financials. I go, guys, you're not going to like what I have to say, but we got to double the pricing. They're like, that's impossible. We can't double the pricing. We'll lose all of our clients. Well, we doubled the pricing. We lost 40% of the clients. We made 120% to run 60% of the clients. So we ran almost half the clients, 120% of the revenue. Ended up being a better deal because we were able to get rid of some of the people that were not pulling their own weight. But most HVAC, plumbing, electrical, roofing, gutters, flooring, they're not tracking KPIs. They don't know their numbers. They just don't know. And all they look at is their bank account. They're not looking at the important things that matter. And if they were, and they were having weekly meetings and they looked at the profitability and they understood the levers they could pull, most people don't know what to do when they show up on Monday. They're like, gotta make some phone calls. I got some stuff on the calendar. Your largest revenue loss is where you should be focusing, and most of the time it's the call center. Most people don't like the top grade because they feel like this person's been loyal to me for a long time, and they're like family. Bullshit. Like, you should be top grading every year. The Jack Welch, General Electric. So many people are like, look, give them it's not fair for you, your clients, or them to keep somebody that's not pushing it to the next level all the time. There's this thing called the law of the lid. And if you're growing and your people are not, you're going to outgrow your people, which means they need to be replaced. So I'm always coaching my leadership team. You better be growing or you're not going to have a spot on the bus. And I don't mean that negatively. I'm not trying to threaten you, but I'm reading all the time. I'm speaking at seminars. I'm podcasting. I'm listening to podcasts. I'm meeting new people. I'm going through programs to get educated. Are you? And you should see everyone in my down the hallways reading like crazy amounts of books.
It's good. The weekly meetings thing, I just started to attend our money meeting because Ellen Rohr basically looked me in the eyes and was like, "You're an idiot for not doing your weekly going to your weekly money meeting." And
your known financial position.
Yeah, the known financial position. And then she's kind of talking a little bit about, I think, what she did with you, or like, I think she consulted with you guys at one point. And like, do you have some kind of like one pager, or what do you look at from your money people now? What are like the things you're always hyper obsessing on? And what does that look like? What is it built out on? Like, do you have like a
Power
um,
BI.
Power BI? Okay. And like, what are some of the biggest like numbers you're like scanning for? Like, that. And did we just talk about them, or is that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for the most part. I mean,
Yeah.
Luke, my COO, looks at a lot more. Luke is we you know, you could get lost in our data. We
Yeah.
almost have too much data,
Sure.
but the difference is what does the data cause us to make decisions on? And if
Yeah.
there's nothing, it's just data for the sake of data. Um, for me, I care about what's in the bank, profitability, and EBITDA. I
Yeah.
mean,
Okay.
look, I'm racing towards the next
Yeah.
sale. I mean, that's what I'm looking forward to doing,
Yeah.
and then the next sale, which will go public after that. I mean, look, the day I sell, it's selfish not to sell because if you got an equity incentive program or profit units, a lot of other people get rich, very wealthy, and I think, hey, the owner's doing
Mm.
great. Fuck everybody else, huh? You
Yeah.
know, you're paying everybody else 100 grand. They're never going to get to where they need to be until you sell and you give equity. And excuse my French there, but I just think it's not fair because you're living your dreams and your plans, but you're not including anybody else in your plans. And the whole book I wrote, Elevate, is build a business where everybody wins, not just the owner.
Mm. So would you say that equity incentive plan is a big lever? And like, I know that you're not a lawyer, but could you give us like a basic outlay of how that looks?
Yeah,
And
well, the deal is every company I buy into has to do an equity incentive program.
mm,
And the people that helped you build the company that have been loyal to you, that work their asses off. I know I just said replace people, but there always are those core people that help you get to the next level. Um, so the way it works is, let's say your business is worth $10 million today. That's your money. No one else could touch that. There's no voting rights. You might have a vesting period of 5 years, and then maybe some KPIs in addition. Um, And so let's say the business gets to $100 million valuation, 10 of that's yours, so there's 90 left. You gave 2% away of 90 million. 2% equals 180,000 they would get. Uh no, 1.8 million. Sorry. 1.8 million. So there's no voting rights. It's a really cool mechanism. There's several things that happen with an equity incentive program. Number one, they don't pay ordinary income. They pay capital gains.
mhm,
Number two, so they're an owner now, so they pay capital gains. Number two is they're not leaving; they have equity. And
mhm,
number three, it's really easy to recruit people when you have this mechanism in place,
mm,
because especially equity means nothing if you don't have a plan to sell. You can be like, "Oh man, I'm giving you 10%, but I'm never going to sell," and there's no profit sharing or anything, so they get nothing till the day it has to be 50.1% of the company. There has to be a change in control, or they get nothing.
So you're talking about your next couple sales or whatever. That's A1, and you're talking about to the next buyer, and there'll be probably two more of those before you public, or what is it?
One more.
Okay.
And
One more.
at the revenue, I will say the profitability we're going to be at, we could go public. It just doesn't make sense. In general, they say you need to be over 100 million of EBITDA, but preferably a few hundred million of EBITDA. Um,
Who else is
and
public?
by the
Like,
way, going
sorry.
public is really, it sounds great, but it's not. There's this thing called Sarbanes-Oxley.
Yeah.
And me and the CFO got to sign our life away on the financials. I sign
Mm,
every year when on our audited financials, but I'm not like screwed. They ask me, "Do you know of anything funky going on in the company? Is anybody
mm,
extracting money?" And no, I don't. I don't.
yeah.
But if you lie to people investing in the company, it's a whole different matter. So
Hmm.
they're like detectives in a public traded company. Um, and there's a lot of nuances and caveats and just hard things that you got to do when you go public. But is the juice worth the squeeze? Home service is getting anywhere from a 12 to 20x right now, depending on the health of the company and if it's demand driven.
Hmm.
When you go public, we know from pest control that it'll get 25 to 30x. So going public actually increases the valuation of the multiple. And it's easier to raise debt and buy companies.
Many homes suffer from inefficient HVAC systems due to leaky ducts, leading to uneven room temps, lost airflow, and higher energy costs. AeroSeal's innovative sealant technology targets and repairs leaks, improving airflow and efficiency. Increase your customer satisfaction, increase sales, and offer a unique market advantage. Become a leader in HVAC efficiency. aeroseal.com.
Who else is public? Like, can you name like some like ones for us to think about as we're talking about this? Like, who else?
ServiceTitan went public, but that's software, so it's a SaaS company.
Yeah.
The only ones I know that went public is Terminex.
Terminex.
I happen to know that most likely Wrench Group. I think they might sell one more time before they go public, but
I thought there was another
for the most part,
one
we
recently.
know that we'll get 28 to 30x. I mean, it's I got guys way smarter than me that I talk to. I try to be the dumbest guy in the room.
Yeah.
My guys at Goldman Sachs could run circles around me, and they just understand things at a different level.
Yeah.
So, these are the discussions I have.
What I saw was so during COVID, I had a thing that ranked for Angie or whatever, like on the first page or something. So some guy, I don't know, big investor guy called me up and was like, "Do you really think there's problems with the Angie business model or whatever?" And I was like chatting with him, and he's like, "We are looking for," he represented some big firm or something, but he's like, "We're really looking for big things in home services to invest in. Like the average investor just doesn't have a lot of options to invest in home services when it was booming. It was going nuts, and they're like, there's what stocks? There's Home Depot. There's what else? Like now, I mean, there's Beacon Supply on roofing. There's the few of the ones you talked about. There wasn't a ton of options, so it's kind of interesting. There needs to be more exposure in the stock market to home service brands. Basically, is what I felt like. There's demand. There's demand for the average investor to want to invest in home service. So,
well, those companies that you're talking about, they call up and they'll pay you for your time or donate it to charity. And I've probably been on 20 phone calls for ServiceTitan, and I give them the honest feedback. I always rep ServiceTitan well, but I do have issues if they jack up my prices. But when you have a CRM with all your data, you're stuck between a rock and a hard spot.
Yeah.
But that's why ServiceTitan came out.
Yeah.
$110
You've got to be pretty invested in them, right?
They gave me a friends and family opportunity to put in money when they just went public, but I had nothing before that.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Yeah. And I hit it with what I could at the moment. I was like, I'll pull it up and put some, because I'm rooting for anything home. Most home service stocks. I'm rooting for it.
I think home service is. It wasn't really focused on. We've always learned from Robert Kiyosaki. Real estate's the way to go. Real estate. But when you have KPIs and you have a sophisticated CRM and a financial system like QuickBooks or better yet, Intact, we've never had a down year, not once. We've never lost. We never month over month, and you always compare the same month, so December to December. We've never had a down month compared to, now look. February has 28 days except for leap year. It's a little bit, and we always look at working days, not necessarily the days of the month. So yes, month to month, sometimes it fluctuates a little bit, but never have we lost compared to the year before the same month. And that's a good KPI to keep an eye on.
I like that. Talk to me a little bit about acquisitions. And what sizes is it appropriate to actually be thinking about it? I mean, I see the little guys do it sometimes, like we're at 10 million, let's grab a 2 or something like that. When was it the most interesting to you? And did you ever do it on the smaller side, or did you wait until you got big?
It sounds great. Buy companies to grow. It's faster. But there's this whole thing called integrations, and very few people, even the financial masters out there understand what it's like to take a culture and absolutely integrate it. You don't want 10 chiefs in the kitchen or whatever that chefs or whatever too many cooks in the kitchen. You got to have a hierarchy. And so unfortunately, owners like to be owners. A good buddy of mine, Darius Livers, said if they're under 5 million of EBITDA, don't keep the owners. They're actually going to hold you back. And there's a lot of people out there, that they got money and investors that think they can just go buy HVAC companies and roll them up. And you know what? It'll work for a while. But private equity is getting smart. They're learning that most of those companies, they don't have a culture. You could go buy, if you buy too many too fast, there's growing pains. You've got a team that's never worked together before. And there's different ways to structure the deal. I like it when the main company buys the whole company underneath it. There's not all these separate holding companies. But to each their own. I've seen it successful a lot of different ways. The first major company we bought was $1 million of EBITDA, and it was a great company here in Phoenix. And we probably done another 12. I think greenfield growth is so much better than acquisitions if you could pull it off. And the main thing is that you improve every time you greenfield. You're not going to kill it. But the fact is that once you reach a certain size, just make sure the next one's better than the last.
What are some surprising lessons that you've learned from greenfielding into a new market?
Well, you got to have an omni approach. You can't just do like Valpak and pay-per-click. You've got to meet the people. You've got to be part of. Think about when you started. You got to join the Chamber of Commerce and go to B&I meetings. You got to put yard signs. You got to go back to this grassroots approach, right? Yeah. Guerrilla marketing. You got to get to know people, talk to realtors. It's kind of like if you were to get a franchisee. You want somebody that's connected. You got all the systems. You got the call center. You got the marketing. You just need boots on the ground, somebody that represents you well there. Home shows. You got to do it all. The main thing with any market I'm in is I got to have two absolute all-stars. There's got to be someone day in after day in and out that are murdering into that market. High conversion rate, great reviews. We've got a whole scorecard. People need to see it's possible in that market. Otherwise, they'll make excuses.
What is Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, they'll be like, oh, yeah, the dispatchers don't like me, or, it's not as good of area as Phoenix, and there's so much competition, and, our prices are higher than our competitor. Like, here's the deal. Most people point their fingers this way. They should be pointing them at themselves because they're the issue.
So Rilla allows you to listen to it's an AI in your pocket, listens to the appointment. It's pretty crazy what it can do. It gives a script, gives everything they said, it breaks down some statistics for you.
Analyze talk ratio, interactivity, like how you and I are interacting back and forth, long as modeling, like all those things.
This is the shit that I most believe in AI. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Enhancing the
You're about to put math and data around something that used to be my magic skill.
How about that recruiting strategy in a new market? Like, what's the? Seems like it would be a little harder if that's not your like home base.
You know what I've actually been testing? I've been finding local influencers to help and paying them. We also went from $1,500 to recruit a person to $5,000 starting in January 1st. We've found based on the data that when our coworkers recruit people, they not only last longer, but they've got better performance. Better than Indeed or Glassdoor and stuff like that.
Okay. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, we had 1,500 applicants this week.
Sorry, what do you mean by the influencer thing in a new market? Like how would that look specifically?
Well, there's soccer moms. There's
Okay.
I had Andy Elliott. I paid him to post because he's pretty good on social media. You find people. I'm doing a deal in Vegas with a real estate mongrel, and I'm giving him doors, which is going to cost me $20,000. Really nice doors, but he's going to post everywhere. He's going to make 10 introductions to people I need to know. He's going to allow us to do paid on his channel to which is like a lookalike audience pixeled. It's very easy. He'll do a pinned post for me. So we're putting out all these things we need from him. And when this works, which it will, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try to do a couple of those deals a month in each market, especially in our growing markets.
It's pretty sweet.
It's genius. Influencer marketing it's hard to figure out. But once you understand it and understand how it works, you make everybody an affiliate. And you just pay them a marketing fee. Yeah. Because I pay Google a lot of money. Why not just pay someone else that has the audience already?
Absolutely. Sometimes I'm like listening to you because this is like probably like our 5th podcast or something like that. I'm like, you're a very smart dude. And I'm always trying to figure out like which of the secrets are like not secrets, it's consistency and it's being diligent and but like what were like the biggest ones? And I once again, I'm trying to bring this back to that audience that's like 3 to 15 million.
Yeah. So here's the deal. The number one thing is this is probably really, really hard. And people think I'm so conceited. They meet me in person, like you're not at all what I expected, like from hearing you on a podcast. Because I come here, people are like, you're very humble. I am very humble. The hardest thing for me, and the best thing I can tell you, is hire people that are way smarter than you. Mm-hmm. Hire people that you can't keep up with. Hire people that have been where you want to go. So you got to start out with the question is, why would they work for you? Why would they come to your company? If they're that great, what's in it for them? You got to ask yourself that question all the time, because it's not me. It's my team. The Green Bay Packers don't win the Super Bowl. The team wins the Super Bowl. The quarterback's important. So's the defense. So's the linebacker. So's the running back. You know what I mean? Everybody's got to play a role. So my goal is to build a business so strong no one knows who the boss is. And by the way, my biggest passion is that I could leave here for a month and the company runs perfectly, and I could leave here for a year and it would run perfectly. And that's because I hired people way smarter than me, and I don't mind saying that. I think I have one of the highest EQs because I always think about how I make people feel. I don't know if I have the highest IQ, but I know this. I know how to hire the guy that does have a high IQ.
I like that. All right. Well, yeah, I'm thinking about anything else what else should have I asked you on this topic of growth versus profit that I didn't ask you?
People always ask me, why did A1 become the largest, other than a couple of franchises, why is it the largest company on the planet for garage doors? And just like you, I'm a marketer. That's what I am. I'm better at marketing than anything. I'm obsessed with marketing. Marketing reports directly to me, the whole marketing team and every one of our vendors. So I think the problem is, if you learn how to make the phone ring, right now when you meet somebody, you're marketing. How to win friends and influence people is marketing. And I'll tell you this, success leaves clues. I called ServiceSite and I said, what's the number one HVAC company for booking? They said this guy, Lee Downing, in Memphis, Tennessee. I flew out and seen him. And then I flew my team out to visit his call center.
Yeah.
And then I called Clopay. I said, who's got the best product mix? Flew out and saw that company. And then I just searched for HVAC repair in the largest cities. And I called them up and said, who do you guys use for this or that? I looked at who's the number one person all over the place on LSA. Who's still in the yellow book and why? And is it still working in retirement communities? Yeah. The deal is that I didn't have to come up with anything. I'm just curious. I ask a lot of questions. I'm very, very curious. I always will be. And that curiosity is what's led me to success, is like, I'm not afraid to ask. Yeah. And I say this, my dad and my grandpa never ask for help. They'll figure anything out. They'll take it apart. They'll put it back together. They're not going to ask for directions. They're going to figure it out. They're going to go buy a map. I'm the first one watching them that learned, I'm just going to ask for everybody for help. I'm going to ask for directions right away before I go the wrong way. Opposite of them, because back then, my grandpa would take apart a spigot that cost 10 cents. The spigot costs $5, but it'll buy a flange or a gasket that costs 10 cents to fix it. But it took 7 hours to take apart and fix. I had to go buy a special tool for it that I'll never use again. It never made sense to me. So that's Tim. If I were you, I'd be flying out, finding companies that are $15-20 million, and I say, listen, I want to hear your growing pains. I want to come in. I'd bring a notebook. I'd fly out and I'd say, listen, I'm very, very curious. I'm going to buy you guys all lunch. I'd like to take you to dinner. I'd like to hang out with your team. I've read your book. I've got a lot of questions, and possibly I might be interested in selling to you one day, because that tells them what's in it for them, right? And they'll mentor you, and they'll tell you exactly how to get to the next level.
We get weird and we get a little weird and competitive in agency world. I do that with home service businesses, but agencies, it feels, I don't know, something feels a little.
Well, here's the deal.
More competitive.
That's because. Well, what I would do is go to an agency that wasn't a competitor in home service.
Non-home
service. I might go to one that specializes in dentists.
Yeah.
Or I might go to one that it's the same thing. They're still running GMB optimization and doing pay-per-click. Yeah. So I go to something similar, but say, look, I'm not your competitor. But one day they might want to go into the home service vertical. So why not? It's the exact same thing. They figured out a lot. So your biggest thing is churn. That'll go into your valuation as your churn rate.
Yeah. Last question here on the show is about the personal brand. You've been very successful. There's bigger CEOs of home service businesses out there in the world, but you've taken both the success part. You've been successful, but you've also leveraged that into personal brand, and you've created probably a lot, like with the influencer type thing. I saw like a couple stories that you've been on recently. They're very mainstream, where you've leveraged that personal brand to do that. And I probably have some ideas about the motivation behind that. But if you could kind of explain why you've done that and what's worked about it for you, the personal brand at the higher level.
Personal brand gives you access. People come to me first. People answer my calls. And I kind of stumbled upon it. I always told myself I'm going to start a podcast just because I've screwed up and failed so much. Then I'm going to start something. Plus, if I start a podcast, no one had a podcast in 2017. Very rare. I could talk to people that have been where I want to go. If I needed help with HR or payroll or recruiting or personality profiling, or that's how I met Al Levy. That's how I met Alan Rohr. That's how I met the majority of the people I've hired. And my dirty little secret is I hire probably 1 in 30 people I have on the podcast. So I hire 1 or 2 consultants a year that come directly from the podcast. But what you have in life is your reputation. And I have a story to tell, and I think my story is not one of success, but it's a cumulative amount of failures that led to success. And if you listen to my podcast, you'll realize I talk a lot about my mistakes as well. I'm like ready, shoot, aim. I jump out of the plane and build a parachute on the way down. Because everybody wants perfection. They wait. So, for me, building a brand of Tommy Mello, it's opened up so many doors. And if anything, people know, like, I'm still humble. I care deeply about the people I'm with and around me. And I've made a lot of mistakes. Therefore, these mistakes have taught me so much in business that I'll never make them again. So when I talk to somebody, I'm not like, oh, yeah, I know the answers, but I know what not to do. I'm like, don't do that. And when you're looking for somebody like in your C-suite, go to a recruiter. That's a lesson I learned. Do not go on Craigslist or Indeed or Glassdoor to hire a C-suite person. Find the baddest ass person on the planet that's already got a job working somewhere, not looking in the unemployment line. You know what I mean? So your personal brand, the more you grow it, and it's come from podcasting, stages, 2 books, about to be a 3rd here next year. And it takes years. Most people give up. Most people I know that started a podcast give up after 6 months. And by the way, the first year, I don't think I had anybody listen to it. Now, of course, people went back and listened to them, but I didn't care. I was like, this is for me. This is my way of meditation. This is fun for me. I enjoy podcasting. So, yeah, I think people overestimate what they could do in 1 year and underestimate what they could do in 5.
Yes, sir. Hey, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, you bet.
We covered a lot of topics here. Hopefully, I'll get you on next year too.
Yeah, I love it, man. I'd like to finish out the year with you. I appreciate you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you everyone for watching. This is the Plumbing and HVAC Hustle podcast and put on by Hook Agency.
What are they supposed to do right now?
Oh, Tommy, besides rate and review the podcast, which do that, but Tommy, what can I do for you? Is there anything that they got a book? You got anything that you're promoting right now that they should go check out?
No, if you know what I usually tell people, go to Tommy Mello, no W, TommyMello.com. You can follow me on social, but if you go to TommyMello.com/shop, come do a shop tour. It's free. I try to get really involved with those. It's a way for me to pay tribute to my team, and it's a way for you to learn what we do. Sharing is caring. I'm big into reciprocity. I know the more I do for people. Who said that? What's his name? He said, you could have anything you want in life if you help enough people get what they want.
That's a good quote.
I'm trying to think. Oh, man. Oh, geez. He's from Dallas. Anyways, I'm here to help people. Like, literally, I don't. What's that?
Zig Ziglar.
Zig Ziglar. Yes. Zig Ziglar. So, the best compliment I could ever receive for my podcast is when people share it, they write a review, they like it, and they subscribe. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're getting value, it's the least you should do to show Tim that that his content's important to you.
Hey, I appreciate you saying that. And I'm trying to figure out how busy your schedule is. I got a little question for you after the show here about the.
Give me a buzz, or we can stay on here.
Let's stay on here for 1 second after we wrap up, if that's all right.
By the way, if I did a good job for you, Tim, on your garage door, Google, Yelp, next door.
Okay, I've done Google for sure. I think I included a photo with me and the two guys who are super nice. But
that's awesome.
Nextdoor and Yelp are coming up.
Thank you.